still here we are before you because of our strong feelings about this recommendation for the future of all the children at Maupin Elementary. Our guiding principles regarding moving forward with Maupin Elementary are learning and achievement for all of the students at the school. All roughly 350 students, all 350 families, some not represented here, some in a silent majority as well that you're not hearing from. We are recommending that the board vote to remove the Catawba magnet from Maupin Elementary School. This recommendation is based on the findings of the Advanced Ed Diagnostic Review, which was requested by the Kentucky Department of Education. The Kentucky Department of Education requested the review because Maupin Elementary is currently the lowest scoring elementary school in the state of Kentucky, ranked 709th out of 709 elementaries. The Catawba magnet directly conflicts with the 5 improvement priorities determined from the audit. There is conflict with both the taught versus the tested standards, as well as the requirements for an aligned curriculum, an effective system of assessment and data, and a culture of high expectations for student learning. So through their audit, the state identified 5 priorities that must be worked on and are the mandate and the roadmap for improvement for Maupin Elementary, and the Catawba model is in direct conflict with all 5 of those priorities as we move forward in working. Furthermore, the most recent school data reveals a decline in student achievement, particularly in the area of early literacy. This data, along with the research to support the importance of early literacy learning, has been provided to board members in support of the district request to remove the Catawba magnet. As recent as Friday, the assistant superintendent meeting, I received the newest piece of data as tied to the Summer Boost program, which you all wisely funded, for all kindergarten students who aren't on grade level. Then there's a Summer Boost opportunity for those students to receive over the summer to then hopefully get on grade level when they enter grade 1, to then fulfill your all's desire to have everyone reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. At that meeting, data was presented for every elementary school, and the percent of kindergarten students not on grade level at Maupin Elementary was 88%. So the 88% of those students then will be eligible for the Summer Boost and will be invited, so that hopefully that intervention then we can get those students on grade level. Furthermore, if you think about the same group of students, when those students entered kindergarten at Maupin, 42% of them were kindergarten ready. So we had 42% of the students enter the school kindergarten ready. From the first day of school to the point of when the other data was collected then, 88% of those same students are now not on grade level or having achievement proceeding then to 1st grade. This district recognizes and appreciates, the district, as I'm representing the district, recognizes and appreciates the hard work that you all have before you. I appreciate the fact that you ask us for data and we provide data and information for you, of which I've only spoken a little bit about tonight. I was not going to read every piece of data that you have regarding Maupin. We also appreciate that it is about learning and student achievement. The current program is failing to meet the academic needs of the students at Maupin. And it is with this spirit that we make the recommendation to remove the Catawba magnet at Maupin Elementary. We base this on research, We base this on data. We certainly value feelings and emotions, but as we move forward, the responsible recommendation we feel is to stop the program and to make the recommendation that we cease. I took inspiration also from your all's words in your most recent statement that you said. And in your all's words, you said, we must accelerate the pace of achievement for the students in Jefferson County Public Schools, and we must take action that will continue to improve the education that it provides to all children. And so in that same spirit, I conclude our brief presentation for the recommendation, and Principal Holmes and I would be glad to answer any questions.
Ms. Duncan.
And I want to go ahead and set the record straight. It's just Mr.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
That's okay.
I was promoted. What does the state say about the schools trending downward and what that will mean as far as the state is concerned? I mean, they've already told us that there are 5 areas that have to be worked on. But if it continues in that downward trend, what have they told us?
We haven't, they've said, here's your roadmap. They've given us the visit. It was a comprehensive visit, and they looked at all aspects of the school. They looked at purpose and direction of the school. They assessed the governance and leadership of the school, teaching and assessing for learning, using results for continuous improvement, and then resources and support systems. And they cited the 5 improvements that I read previously, and they said those must be addressed, and under the current model then, they would come back in 2 years then to assess again the progress in making toward those improvement priorities. They said also that there was, in the report, which is all public, that there is a confusion and a lack of coherence and purpose among staff members as well as parents as well as students, because they interviewed all 3 stakeholders.
And there are 350 students in the school.
Yes, approximately, yes.
And this was meant to be a whole school program. It wasn't meant to be a magnet program. It was meant to be for the entire school. Is that correct?
Yes.
But it is, I mean, it was initially a whole school magnet school organization.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Dr. Cole?
So, is this, I just want to be crystal clear for myself, is the
Yes, sir.
state's recommendation then that we approve this motion and remove the Waldorf-Catalpa program?
The state did not explicitly say that in the audit, sir.
Okay.
The state gave us the 5 improvement priorities after the visit, and all of those priorities are in direct conflict with the philosophy in the program. And so I inferred then they also had statements about confusion, clarity, lack of coherence.
You referenced earlier that some parents may feel differently than the ones we've heard from tonight. Have you talked to a lot of these parents?
I have talked to a few parents. Ms. Holmes and I, as recently, I guess, as this week, have started receiving correspondence from some of those stakeholders as well, offering differing viewpoints.
Okay. I mean, it's hard, you know, the only things that have been communicated to me have been what we've heard tonight.
We could certainly share those if you would like to see those emails or letters.
So what, you know, if, and I don't know, I mean, so this may be a representation, but if BIC was a good Waldorf-inspired program, not why did we change it necessarily, but why can't we do that at Moffett? What's the...
I don't know the specific history, but here's the things that I do know. I think BIC is also a priority school, and having been identified as the state as a priority school. And I'm not drawing any correlation there, but I'm just stating a fact. And I don't know the removal of the program at BIC in Maupin, and to fill everyone in, I inherited this school in March when Mr. Lattimore retired.
I'm just wondering, I mean, we're talking about not having a Waldorf program anymore, essentially, and we're having it big, I don't know for how long, but.
25 years.
25 years.
25. So I assume that it worked for some families, and I don't know, I mean, I wish we had more information about it. It just, I don't understand why, if it was that big for that long, why we're not able to have a Waldorf program anymore.
I would say, in my recommendation, that in my professional opinion, in meeting the needs of students and the approach and the research that I've done with this, which by the way has been painstaking, I don't come here before you lightly or suddenly, it would be my recommendation that it is not a fit here, and I would not support it being a fit in another school as well. And I don't want to muddy the water, but that's how strongly I feel about it. As I've researched it and I look at the information and the data, and I look at what's going on with that.
So, I think, and I'm grateful to research the data is very comprehensive, and so I very much appreciate that. And this isn't necessarily a question for you so much, since you've just taken on this a few months ago, but these 5 improvement priorities that you referred to, and it's very clear, as you said, the state's needed next steps are clearly in direct contradiction to the Waldorf process. I guess a fair point that should be made at this point is we knew all this beforehand. So it's, and I may well vote to discontinue the program, but it's not a vote that I want to take. It's, these are issues that, just should have been seen before we approved the program, and frankly, before the state let us go forward with it. So, we have, no matter what happens with this vote tonight, I think we as a district need to realize that we have let down a bunch of people, a bunch of parents.
You don't have to.
And we need to take ownership over that, commit to never letting it happen again. At least in this, we're gonna make mistakes, but at least in this, just staggering away is the only way I can think to put it. And we need to do everything we can for the parents and teachers that are at Maupin if we do decide to discontinue it.
Yes, sir.
And then the final point I make is just, as a board member, the notice that went out to families saying that it has been discontinued.
Yes.
And I don't know, I'm not saying it's your fault, but I
No,
don't need to know whose fault it is.
No, I will take full ownership of that, and I can speak directly to that. I've spoken to Board Member Porter and Dr. Hargens about that. And so one of the important things that Ms. Porter and Dr. Hargens thought was important was to reach out individually to families
Sure.
before the materials went public. And in doing that, the initial ask or script was to say, well, what is special, what is important about the school that you value, in order then, based on whatever your all's decision was going to be. And there was never any presumption on my part or the district's part that it was our decision and not your all's. That there was never any presumption around that. But in the spirit of that, there was preparation to talk about that and ask. I think the way that I understand it then, Chair Brady and Vice Chair Wilner were involved in the discussion, and there was talk about it's important to let families know these accommodations that are going to be made before the meeting and before the board materials so the shift happened then in the script and in reaching out. And by the way, we reached out and made telephone calls and reached out to families individually. In the doing of that, my area was so prepared for the vote either way that that flyer was done in advance to be prepared for tomorrow and Thursday and Friday to meet the needs of parents. So it was really being responsive and sensitive to that. So number one, it should not have been posted. And then number two, after we made the calls and the script changed from what's special about the school that you would like to see continue to what are the accommodations, the flyer got sent home inappropriately.
Okay.
And so that is my fault. I take full responsibility for it. And there was never any ill intent. It was done in advance to the expediency to meet the needs of families.
And I understand that, it just, this can't happen again, like where the board, it says the board has made a decision.
I understand that.
There's, it really frustrated me when I saw that. I think that concludes my questions. I just want to say that, again, that I think if we do vote to remove it, we have to own up to the fact that we really messed this up, and that we should have seen these issues coming beforehand. It's inexcusable that we didn't, and we just have to make sure that we do a much, much better job in the future.
Ms. Horn?
On the issues such as this, I approach it like I approach my board work on all issues and try to communicate, listen, read every email, do the homework, look at the data, and talk, a lot of talking. And on this issue, it is academic in a sense that it's an educational issue of what is best for the child. As a citizen leader, which I am because I'm a volunteer, not a professional educator, I'm a citizen leader, so I have to look at the decision in front of me, do my homework, talk, and all this. But in the end, this is an educational issue, so I have to fall back on, I am a board member and my role is to make the decision based on the facts and the information. So I have to look to the people, and I'm gonna ask, we're just gonna do this publicly, okay? So I started at the top, and I asked Dr. Hargens, and I can see right here that you're recommending to the Board of Ed that we approve the removal of the magnet status, and that is your recommendation.
That is correct.
And then I look to Joe Leffert, and he's assistant superintendent that's over the school. And is this your recommendation?
Yes, it is. And if I may, it's also Dr. Herring's recommendation, our chief
Yeah,
academic
I was
officer.
gonna ask that
I'm
next,
sorry,
yeah.
Who is absent tonight, but
Yeah.
is, as stated in the rationale, is also her recommendation.
Yeah, and Dr. Herring is our chief academic officer, and like Dr. Hargens, Dr. Herring brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, and is our chief educator. She's a chief academic. A principal is here. Can you tell us, you have been silent, so I do need to ask, what is your recommendation and why?
My recommendation is also the removal of the magnet, and it is because our most fundamental purpose is learning. As you say, what do you want to call academics? It's learning, and all of our decisions need to come from evidence of student learning. And looking at the evidence, and looking at the data, and looking, then I think that to continue to do something that distracts us from the purpose of learning is not as ill-advised.
And the teachers are split. Is that your opinion at the school?
And I think if I could continue then,
Yeah.
we do need a common collective vision about what teaching and learning looks like. It's part of our improvement priorities. We've attempted that process, but we are split in philosophical differences about early literacy. And again, we sometimes ask the wrong questions. We're asking questions about things other than learning methods of practicing.
And then that gets us into the climate and culture issues that are going on at the school as a result of what you just mentioned. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so just from my perspective, taking in that information, the swirl of the Kentucky Department of Education and the idea that the waivers that we requested and potentially didn't request or didn't get or didn't have ironed out, I joined Dr. Cobb and being kind of very disappointed in this situation that parents, then it comes back to the student, the family, and the student, which for me is the center of everything. So if I just put myself as the parent, and I am in parental loca, what is it, parenta, some of y'all know how that Latin word is, but I have to, loca parenta. I have to step into the shoes as a board of education, person into the shoes, and I'm split, and so what happens is I have to make my judgment as a prudent, I have to look at the facts and the data, and so I will support, go along with our educational leaders and support and recommend that we, what they recommend is to approve the removal.
Mr. Dees.
Yes, I prepared a statement I would like to share as well. I think you'll find it's very much the same as Member Cole's sentiment. However, I'd like to share it nonetheless. As a new member to the Jefferson County School Board, I've taken great time and care in exploring the Waldorf model employed at Maupin Elementary in the fall of 2015 and the recommendation that the model be discontinued. I have been deeply troubled that in only 2 years' time, the 2015 implementation of this model caused the transfer of all but one Maupin teacher, and that upon learning of the 2017 possible change, 16 of Maupin's 30 teachers are prepared to transfer yet again. One need not wonder how teacher transfers of this magnitude has affected and may affect the education of Maupin's students. However, the blame is not to be placed upon Maupin's teachers, but in a system of incomplete decision-making that left and leaves many teachers in an uncomfortable situation and with little certainty for the future of their teaching environment. This is unacceptable. I have been deeply troubled in the opinion of many in the community who have come to calling this board a, quote, rubber stamp, end quote. This opinion arose after a notice called for Maupin parents to attend a meeting regarding the board's decision at least a full week before our board met to make our decision. I would like to remind all here today that policy is not made until the votes of this board are counted. To assume otherwise is a violation of the principles of good governance, and this is unacceptable. I have been deeply troubled that this program is not due to be evaluated for, I believe, 4 years, but instead is evaluated in 2. However, I realize that if the model is not truly working to improve student growth at this time, waiting an additional 2 years may not be responsible. The decision-making process and the way in which this model has been directed is truly regrettable. I've heard from concerned constituents who do not want to see their children transfer. However, I've been given reassurances that JCPS will work directly with parents requesting transfers, should this recommendation be approved, to ensure that these parents are given preference in their needs. I would just like to communicate that this is truly a lose-lose situation and something that I feel all members of this board, in fact everyone in this room, finds incredibly regretful.
I'm going to allow Ms. Porter to speak last. did just, I'm troubled when things are so polarized. We live in a world that's incredibly polarized, and when it's us versus just do what's right for kids. Well, I will always do what I believe to be best for kids, and sometimes it's not so cut and dry, and sometimes trying to put the whole picture together, as Ms. Horn has described, talking with lots of people, consulting the data, trying to understand the history of the District of Innovation, what happened in the first place, and Waldorf inspired versus a pure Waldorf model, and the tension that has continued there. And I just, I received an email, I've received several like this, but this was a good example. This is not what the person called it, it's the middle path on Maupin, that it's not, good versus bad, good versus evil. So this was, I thought, an important perspective to share. I'm writing to you both as a voter in your district and also as a current teacher at Maupin. I felt compelled to write after seeing that a community advocacy group is rallying people to attend tomorrow night's school board meeting to speak in favor of the Waldorf Magnet program. I believe they're misrepresenting the situation when they say there are two sides to this story. To the contrary, there are at least three, if not many more sides to this story. I would like to give voice to those teachers, staff, and families who do not wish for the Waldorf Magnet to stay at Maupin. We exist. Speaking for myself, I have concerns about supporting a school whose philosophy rejects research-based instructional strategies. I do not want to engage in philosophical debates with my colleagues about whether or not kindergartners should be exposed to printed language, because that shouldn't be up for debate. Yes, our children need exposure to printed language early and often, and yet that's exactly what happens at Maupin. I want to come to work knowing that I'm going in the same direction as my colleagues. I don't currently have that guarantee. Having said that, I respect the founders of the Catalpa program and all of the Waldorf teachers. I know they work hard every day just like I do and have the best intentions for our students. I haven't spoken out until now because I really consider the Waldorf supporters to be a vocal minority within the Maupin community, and because I trust Mrs. Holmes's vision and leadership. If she's asking the board to discontinue the Waldorf Magnet, I hope you will support her. And I've received similar messages to that. I have to say that this is very painful. I have personal friends sitting out here now who work at Maupin, who I have deep respect for as educators, and I know your commitment to children. I have people in the crowd right now who I've walked with in demonstrations and been part of social justice concerns side by side with you. And in some ways, I think that the real issue here is maybe not Maupin versus or Catalpa versus not Catalpa, but that our African American children, and particularly our poor African American children in the West End, seem to get the short end of the stick over and over and over and over and over and over again. And this is very painful. I too am going to support the recommendations of our educators who understand what it is our children need. It's with deep grief that I'm casting this vote. We have to do something about about Maupin, the things that are working, the wonderful hands-on activities, the handcrafts, the movement, the opportunities to be in community, as we heard so eloquently from our student voice that was represented here tonight. These are all things that happen in other schools, can happen without the Waldorf program. I'm not speaking for or against Waldorf specifically, but these are qualities I see in many of our elementary schools. If it's good enough in any part of the city, it's good enough in Maupin, and we have to do what's best for our students. And I'm turning it over to you, our educators, to say, let's do that. Let's make sure our children get what they need, not just academically, but whole child, feeding their hearts, feeding their souls, as we're feeding their intellect, presenting them with printed word, spoken word, sung word, all of those experiences. So, thank you. Ms. Porter.
I'd like to start my comments, first of all, because this has been troubling for all of us on the board. And today this morning I talked to one of my principals, and he said to me, one thing that people know about you is that you care about kids. And that's where my heart is, educating our students, equal access, equal opportunity. I'm proud to represent District 1. I make no apologies for that. I make no apologies that I was born in Parkland. I make no apologies that I went to Brandeis Elementary School and we could integrate the schools. I make no apologies for the fact that I went to Parkland Junior High School, walked, that is Neil Johnson Traditional School. So I'm not going to ever let anybody talk about my district, the West End, or any part of my district. I'm not ashamed. I'm proud to represent. But it's my responsibility to see to it that all of our kids are educated at the highest level. And when I went to one of the meetings and one of the parents said, we deserve this at our school. We absolutely deserve the best education for our students at our school. So I want to first start by saying that anybody that does not know that I care about kids and education, you don't know me, and I'm sorry for that. But for 39 years before I came to the Board of Education, I was an educator. Once an educator, always an educator, and I don't apologize for that either. So I'm going to give my remarks that I have labored over, that I've lost sleep over, that I have cried over, because it's that important. I read very closely the audit finding relating to Maupin. It has been very difficult to want to accept all of this report. We all want what is best for our students. The challenge is always how we work together as a team on a specific improvement plan. Several things resonate with me with this report. Number one, Maupin needs a consistent curriculum. Number two, conflict between practices of program and the demands of state standards. Number three, all students should have equitable learning opportunities, rich instructional learning experiences. Without these attributes, we cannot get what we want for our students. The work is not easy. Major changes are even more difficult. However, I think the review and recommendations address these issues. The evaluators were careful to involve all stakeholders in the review process. Parents and the community are a vital part of the process. SBDM will serve as advisory. I have had the opportunity to meet with your new PTA president, who is passionate, who's encouraging membership and parental support at Maupin. That's very important. Principal leadership remains in place. Many think it's a challenge to educate all children, but it is a task we must achieve. All children deserve our best reports and our best efforts. Working together, we can find the answers. Working together, I'm going to say that for the third time, working together, we can find the answers. Our students are counting on us. Those are my comments, and whenever I have difficult times with the board, I go back to when I was first elected to the board, and there was, trying to get to a point of consensus and to make people understand that we are policymakers in governance, but at the end of the day, all the children in District 1 deserve to excel academically. So when I first came to the board, it was one of those days when I felt like maybe I was not doing the best. A lady from my church said to me, "You were born for such a time as this. We're all pieces of a puzzle. Working together, we can make it work. We're all called to use our gifts and the passions that we have. I'm blessed to serve at this time. Making a difference is what we must do." Thank you.
Thank you, board members, for your comments. This is a very sad time for us. And with that, I will call for a motion to accept the management's recommendation to remove magnet status and discontinue the Catalpa model from Maupin Elementary School's Catalpa School of Innovation Magnet Program. Is there a motion? Ms. Horn, is there a second? Ms. Porter, all those in favor? Passes unanimously. We're going to move on to information items. Oh, thank you, yes, thank you. We have one more action item that was added. Thank you, Dr. Cole, for keeping me